I'd like to thank Trade for sponsoring this episode. In this episode, we are going to explore yet another slice of the Buckeye State. First, we're going to spend some time in Indian Lake State Park with old and new friends. We'll go for a ride on a rare Amphicar and a crazy fast pontoon boat. Then historic Clifton Mill, a quick stop at Columbus, the state capital, and ending at Hocking Hills on the foothills of the Appalachians.
I'm riding in my RV, wherever I want to be, 'cause I'm free in my RV, yeah.
Well, we are in the Buckeye State. Ohio is one of those states that might surprise a lot of people. It is relatively under the radar for most, except for the locals, and sometimes it feels like they want to keep it that way. But in fact, there is so much to see and do that I couldn't do it all in just one episode. Just like last summer when we visited Put-in Bay on Lake Erie, this summer we're doing yet another slice of the state, beginning at Indian Lake on the western part and ending at Hocking Hills on the foothills of the Appalachians. What a coincidence that I arrived right behind our friend Jim. I swear, we did not plan this. As you probably know, I am a coffee drinker. I use espresso grounds for my Cuban coffee. My wife Ili, she drinks regular, so I got a little selection here for both of us. But if you are like me, you probably drink the same coffee all the time, but not anymore. I'm expanding my palette here, and with Trade, you get to discover new coffees from the nation's best local roasters. You just take a quiz, and Trade curates matches just for you. You choose your delivery frequency and they deliver right to your door at the peak of freshness. And as you rate matches, Trade will fine-tune your selection with coffees you will love. All the coffee, by the way, it is roasted and shipped within 24 hours of ordering. And they use compostable packaging, so it is environmentally friendly. And each coffee comes with information about the roaster and the notes. For example, this one says look for notes of dark chocolate, caramel, and cane sugar. I'm not even gonna put sugar on this one so I can taste all that. By the way, Trade guarantees that you will love your first coffee, but if by any chance you don't, they'll send you a different bag for free. Oh, that is good. Now you, my viewers, will get 50% off your first bag when you sign up. This offer is valid for the first 100 people who click the link in the description, take the quiz, and enter the code TRAVELROBERT50. I'll put that in the description too, by the way, and free shipping is included. Well, here we are, Indian Lake Campground here. And there, that's Jim's rig over there. It hasn't quite leveled yet. And, well, yeah, beautiful day here in Ohio. Ever since we arrived, Jim has been trying to coordinate with this gentleman, Joe Shannon, who owns some very unique watercrafts. And I think he's arrived. Let me tell you, it's been hectic. The boat is here. The traveling Buckeyes are here, by the way. Hello there. Hey. All right. Oh, you got that? Oh, you got the DJI, yeah. I thought you got the new GoPro. I'm like, oh, I'm jealous. Yeah. Anyways, here we are, and Jim, I don't know. This is like an episode of My Crazy Ohio Family, but don't worry. At some point we're gonna get it together.
We didn't show him that was it.
Wow! Look at the paint job on that thing. It is a classic Glastron Carlson scimitar with T-tops. It is quite a beauty, actually.
This is traveling Robert, and this is the traveling Buckeye. See,
How you doing, sir?
they're all doing.
What year is this boat? So it's a 1980, it might be an 81. It's a Glastron Scimitar. Glastron's they're still in business. They were kind of a premier boat maker when the fiberglass went to fiberglass in the 60s. So they were really popular in the 60s with fiberglass. Elvis had one. But then this was their flagship in 80 or 81. I think for 3 years, 79, 80, 81, they made, I think it was 500 of them, and and half of them went to Europe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we're thinking about 250 in the country. And I'd like,
T-tops, that's cool.
Yeah, I'd like to think, I'd like to think this is one of the best examples left. I've seen at least one other one online that looked probably better than this one.
I've never seen one before. That's awesome.
All aboard?
Yeah, all aboard.
How do we do this?
So you can step here on the wood, and then preferably down to here if you can.
Yeah, hold on. Here we go, perfect. All aboard, all we go, here we go. It is a truly beautiful boat, one of those rare and unique things. And as I hinted earlier, Joe seems to be a collector of such. Tomorrow we'll get to see another one, even more unique, I think. We are on our way to Cranberry Resort Waterfront Bar and Grill, which is actually located on Seminole Island, one of the so-called Indian Islands, in the middle of the lake. You can drive to it, but it is much cooler to arrive by boat, and it is such a beautiful afternoon here as we approach magic hour. We are even getting some incipient fall colors here in late September. Zooming across the lake. We are approaching the islands, and this is one of those lakes with lots of nooks and crannies, and I am so glad we hooked up with Joe, because this is one of those places best enjoyed with a boat. Well, sunset is upon us. We must be close to our destination. Yes, there it is. Cranberries. No pelicans. I think they're like seagulls or lake gulls, right? They will be lake gulls.
I think it is called seagulls.
All right, we made it. We're gonna let them do their thing, and then awesome. Yes, beautiful, and the beautiful time of the day to be here on the lake. It's almost sunset, as you can see. Oh, I'm famished. I haven't had a Reuben since Kentucky like 2 years ago. Such a great time hanging out here. And just like that, day turned into night. See you tomorrow. Well, good morning. It's a beautiful fall morning here at Indian Lake State Park in Ohio. It is a brand new day, and I have a feeling Jim has a whole action-packed itinerary planned for us. So let's go pick up Corey and hit the road.
Unfortunately, Christy can't make it today.
Morning.
Morning!
First, we're going back to Cranberry because the owner, Jimmy, has invited us to ride on his pontoon, which is nothing short of spectacular. That right there is Sandy Beach Bridge, built at a time when there used to be a great amusement park here. Here's the dam, and that's a beautiful boat right there. I just discovered Jim's car has a sunroof, much better for filming. And we have arrived. I'm gonna fly the drone while we wait for Jimmy. There's Jim showing Corey his drone. There he is. That's a nice pontoon. Sadly, Jimmy is no longer with us. He died in a tragic accident less than 3 months after this was filmed, which is very sad. He was that guy who seemed to have everything: a prosperous business, all the toys, his own island on the lake, and a super nice gentleman. I'm glad I got to meet him, if ever so briefly.
You guys ready?
Yep,
Hold on.
we're ready. Oh yeah.
Now this has got to be one of the fastest pontoon boats ever. I think we got up to 60 miles per hour. Yeah, definitely a fun ride. Lots of boats, lots of activity here on the north side of the lake as we make our way to Atkinson's Resort, where Joe is probably waiting for us with his Amphicar. Yes, you heard correctly, Amphicar. So far, very impressed by Indian Lake, and everybody has been so friendly. There he is. Now look at that. That's a beauty.
He's got like a bungee type straps in the front.
I got this side.
Look at that. It's an Amphicar. Hey Joe, how are you?
Boy, how are you?
Good man, good man. Good morning. Oh man, that's beautiful.
It's a 1965.
1965.
1965 Amphicar. I'm probably not completely up on my numbers, so don't quote me on all this, but they were built between 63 and 67, I think. the company went out of business in 1969.
Yeah, I imagine they didn't make too many of them, right?
They made 3,900.
3,900?
Change. 3,900. I forget exact numbers.
Yeah.
They made 3,900. We're not sure how many are left. They was built for the U.S. market. They're built in West Germany. So most of them came over to the United States, but they didn't sell very well. So a lot of them went back to Europe, and no one knows how many. There is a number floating around out there.
This is so cool. Well, we're gonna take turns riding it, and while they ride, I'll capture all this from the air. They came back to pick up Barb, who was reluctant at the beginning, and off they go again. It is my turn now.
So people always ask how the doors seal on these, and there's a double lip seal. There's a seal here that gets replaced every so often, and this is probably original. And when the door is shut, you pull this up, it sucks the door shut, and then it's usually watertight.
And it does make a pretty watertight seal, right?
It does make it watertight. This one really doesn't leak at all. Years ago, I had that door leak for a bit. It got rusty from the inside and bowed out a little bit, and so it had a small constant drip that I would run the bilge pump every so often. But I've had that repaired, and I haven't had any problems since. So yeah, I could be in the water for hours with no real.
Jimmy is going to follow us on the pontoon so they can take some B-roll, which is technically a tri-tune, by the way, since it has 3 hulls.
And a couple other things that people seem to ask is the engine specs. So the engine's out of a Triumph Herald. It was a predecessor to the Spitfire. At the time, it was the best horsepower to weight ratio that they could find. So it's 43 horsepower.
We got some wake from that boat that was passing us.
And here's Joe doing his own social media update. Such a cool guy.
This is the actuator for the propeller. Okay. So I can just put it neutral there. It's in neutral. I can put it reverse the same way. And they will work independently of each other, and they will also work together. So when I'm coming out of the water, I can leave the propellers engaged and then put it in first gear, so we can get a little head of steam going. And then
this is something that you don't see every day. It's a car that floats.
Well, this was so much fun and such a unique experience, but all good things come to an end. Joe, thanks for the ride, for both rides. Till we meet again. I'm sorry, Ohioans, but the secret is out. This is a great lake, and you wouldn't think so at first sight. I mean, it is kind of flat all around, not a whole lot of topography, but there is something about it, isn't there? Lots of very nice houses all around the lake. And you gotta love the lighthouse, right? Ooh, there's the state park, right there. Here's the revolving statue of Virgin Mary erected in 1964 and once part of the Sandy Beach Park. And there's once again the pedestrian bridge connecting the two sides of the park, at one point known as Ohio's $1 million playground, but in spite of the Virgin Mary statue, which was intended to bring families back, the park fell into disrepair at some point in the 1960s, and the rest is amusement park history.
If you really want that burrito, you know, you can just dock your boats and, yeah. Maybe you got donuts. And there's a McDonald's too around here that has the dock. But yeah, this used to be two amusement parks, the Catholic and the Protestant. And that's the bridge that joined the, you know, the let's call it the ecumenical bridge.
Yeah, that story about the two amusement parks, the one Protestant and the other one Catholic, may not be entirely accurate, seems dubious, and I haven't been able to corroborate. So take it with a grain of salt, but it is a good story nonetheless. Let's get back to Cranberry so we can continue exploring by land. I believe this was Jimmy's Island. And look at this other island. That's tiny. I think we've had enough aquatic fun for one day, so let's continue by land. Next, we're going to this town called Bellfontaine for lunch. But first, here's Tecumseh, one of the Indian Isles. Oh, check it out! Covered bridge. I love covered bridges. Just outside Bellfontaine, we encountered the highest point
in the whole state of Ohio. Elevation 1549. And yeah, this is it. Campbell Hill.
I thought that the highest point, as logic would dictate, would be in the eastern part of the state by the foothills of the Appalachians, but no, I was wrong. It is actually here, in this otherwise mostly flat area. Here we are, Bellfontaine. Coming up here to the left after the Logan County Courthouse, we are going to encounter Court Avenue, the oldest concrete street in America. In 1891, one George Bartholomew invented a process for paving using Portland cement, and Court Avenue was the first street to be paved using that process. We are hungry, and there's a brewery, the cleverly named Brew Fountain, so let's partake.
We're gonna have ourselves some, well, I'm gonna have some IPAs, Barb is gonna have something, I don't know what she's gonna have. We have two DDs here, designated drivers, just in case Jim, you know. See how Jim parks? I forget the name, but it's an IPA.
Yeah, very nice. Cozy. We got some pretzels and some wraps.
We just ate here at Fountain. I thought it was called Fontaine, but that's because we're in the town of Bellfontaine, or Bellfontaine, as Jim says it is pronounced. That is supposed to be a really good burger there, and they have a pizza place, but...
The name Bellfontaine comes from the French, Bellfontaine, meaning beautiful fountain, but the locals have adopted the anglicized pronunciation, so Bellfontaine it is. And now we're gonna drive on the oldest concrete street in America. Next, we're gonna stop at the Marion County village of Morral, Jim's hometown. Population 399. The village was named after Samuel Morral, the original owner of the town site, and the post office has been in operation since 1877. Jim must know I have a thing for farm equipment because he just brought me to this farm.
That's his biggest tractor.
All kidding aside, this is where Jim's dad and his siblings grew up, and he knows I've been meaning to do a video documenting where our food comes from. And what better place than here? So maybe next time I'm in Ohio, we'll work on that.
He's in this group of people that are experimenting on farming, different practices from the guys that do the records. That's why it takes a lot more labor to do this corn, beans. But by doing it, it gives the corn more growth or more sunlight.
Next up, Nothing Fancy Signs and Designs, owned by Jim's friend Scott Arnold, the oldest sign shop in the area. He actually started as a kid working with his dad, and at the time, it was all painted by hand. He's been actually working on a special edition t-shirt we're going to be releasing soon. And it looks like I'm gonna get to print my own shirt. How cool is that? Okay, my turn, once again. I'm getting good at this. Maybe not.
The big overhead, the chickens are up top, then below is where there's manure.
We're gonna start heading back. It is Friday, and I have a live stream to do. The round building is the J.H. Manchester Round Barn. Built in 1908, it is the largest round barn east of the Mississippi. And we made it in the nick of
They have
time.
the accessible bathroom, without... Corey here is filming a behind-the-scenes video with his GoPro. And that's something tonight we have to figure out how he can get me that memory card so I can get some of his footage and...
Would you feel like you're on the ocean down here? I know.
What do I say?
Woody's Diner. It's supposed to be a good place.
This is called the Lake Monster.
The Lake Monster. We're gonna have breakfast, Jim, Barb, and the Traveling Buckeyes.
Hey!
Let's just cruise around the lake, shall we? This is the historic Orchard Island Post Office. Let's stop once again by the location of the old amusement park. Besides the amusement park, this was once the location of a great dance hall. All that remains is the recently renovated bridge.
Alright, steep grade, foot traffic only. 25% grade.
Yeah, it is an old bridge, not necessarily ADA compliant. This is the view from the top, looking north towards the lake, and Our Lady of Fatima here on the right.
Alright, let's go back down. We're running late.
Let's go back to the campground, hitch up, and we're gonna start heading south towards Clifton Gorge State Nature Preserve and historic Clifton Mill, both near a town coincidentally called Clifton. But first, let's pay a visit to the dump and potable water stations.
I forgot to show you, but they have like a courtesy sewer hoses, so you don't have to pull out your own. They have sewer hoses. That's pretty cool. Ohio State Parks. Thank you. Now we're gonna fill up with potable water and off we go.
There's Jim in front of me. He's gonna park in the overflow and ride with me.
Jim is actually coming with me for this leg of the trip.
I'm coming to see you, Ely. Barb kicked me out.
All right, see you in Atlanta.
We'll have to build on the bedroom.
All right.
Or I'll sleep in the tent.
I'll make the dinette for Jim.
It's going cold. I gotta get out of Ohio.
Before snow starts falling and Jim goes south, we've still got more to explore. Next, we're going to Clifton Mill, as I said, Clifton Gorge, Columbus, and Hocking Hills. But more about that on the next episode. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and see you on the road. Once again, I'd like to thank Trade for sponsoring this episode.
I'm riding in